Hi, welcome to episode 91 of Creepy Soup. I'm Jill.
I'm Jenny.
Hi, how are you?
Peachy. Always peachy.
Always peachy. So we know this is late again, and I'm gonna tell you this time it's my fault. I was not in a frame of mind to record yesterday. So Jenny was kind enough to say, yes, let's go ahead and do it tomorrow. So that is what we're doing. Um, and I think like after this, I'm gonna have to go right to work. So when I come home tonight, I'll get all this going. So other than that, yeah, I'm getting a new bed.
I'm
Johnny,
excited for that.
Johnny already knows, but yeah, we went and picked out a bed yesterday, and I'm so fucking excited. I just wish it wasn't a week and a half before I could get it, but I know I've got something to
Yeah.
look forward to. I did joke with the lady because she was like, because we bought a floor model. She said I'm gonna bag it immediately so nobody else can test it out or anything like that, blah blah blah. And she's like, and you can come back and check if you want. And I'm like, okay, I will come back. I'll read it stories. I'll show it TikToks.
That's funny.
So yeah, that was yeah. So I got that look forward to fun shit like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Anything major coming up for you? No?
Nope. The joys of my room.
Work going good?
It's going all right. Um, I've been having a lot more people stop me, um, making comments on how fast I am. And in fact, what was it? No, day before yesterday, I had gone down to the bar and got snacks because our vending machine wasn't working. And there was a couple who was sitting there. Ironically, I know them from school, or at least her, but they didn't know who I was. And it was funny because I was standing there waiting, and she's like, "We're watching you. You're so fast." She's like, "You do a lap in a minute." I'm like, "Yep, that's about average."
There you go.
And
So you're like the speed walker.
yeah,
Good.
except I do it amongst 150 people.
Yeah, you know what? That's talent because where I'm at, where I work, I got like a lot of space to cover
Hmm.
areas for my job because I sequence parts. Um, so I have a couple different workspaces that I go to, and I'm only one person back there,
Hmm.
and but I've got a lot of racks and stuff to maneuver around, but it's not 150 people. So you got me there for sure. For sure.
Yeah, it's been interesting. And it's still so funny to me because like these people have been there the whole time, and I've been doing my laps for over a year and people are still shocked. And it's like, hello, I know you were here a year ago. It's not like I just popped up out of nowhere.
Right. Right. Yeah, and okay, so I have a Planet Fitness membership that I have not used in probably 3 years. And honestly, I was using it for tanning, but I keep thinking I want to go work out. So I'm gonna see how this chiropractor appointment goes and maybe sleeping a few nights on my bed goes.
I'd give it at least like a week, maybe two.
And like because I would love to go. And I'm not that far now from because now we have two locations here now. And one from here is a little bit of a drive, but the other one now is boom, right like maybe 5 minutes away. Um, so that would be very easy to go. after work,
Hmm.
whatever. I would have to go to the one to change this one to my home gym, and then Judy would love to go and work out. And that way I could just like come home, pick her up, and we can go, whatever.
Hmm.
But I want to see how these new adjustments are going to be. I mean, I would go, but I'm so fucking sore all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. And
Give you a few
then,
good sessions with the chiropractor.
honestly, I just need one good one because, like, even laying in bed, like, to turn my head to look at Roy while we're talking or something, my neck will go. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's fucking nuts. It's insane. It's crazy, is what it
Yeah.
is. So,
Well, see, and here's the thing, like you're gonna go, you're gonna have your first adjustment, and you're gonna feel fucking fabulous afterwards.
I'm sure.
Um, but you are gonna be kind of achy, most likely. Um, but it's the repetitive that helps to break up like the scar tissue, the seized joints, stuff like that. So, you might feel great after that first one, but the more you do it, the better you're going to feel
Yeah.
because it loosens all that up.
Yeah.
So that's why I say after a few sessions, you'd probably be better.
Yeah. Well, I guess my hope is like, I mean, I know I'm not going to be cured or anything after one session, but if I feel good enough where after work I can maybe go and do the 30-minute circuit thing, that right there is enough for me.
Hmm.
But like right now it's too much. And like, so yeah, that is my hope. That is my hope.
Well, I hope that works for you too.
Same. I'm That's my hope. That I can at least do that. If I can go and do that 3 times a week,
Hmm.
I would be happy. I'd be good. Yeah. So
I
that's that.
exercise on the other side of my bed.
Um, I don't really have anywhere right now because Roy's usually awake, but he stays in there and in the bedroom and kind of just enjoys some quietness, I guess.
Hmm.
So I don't want to go in there and bug him. There's really not the room in the living room to do it. I'm not doing it in the kitchen. So, and I don't have enough room in this room either.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like if I want to work out, I'm gonna have to start going to the gym. And then with the weather getting nicer, I would like to maybe get up a little earlier than I normally do and like go for a walk. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not promising shit.
Ironically, as the weather is turning nicer, I want to start running.
I don't run. I don't run. I'm one of them people. If you see me running, you run too, because something's happening for sure.
See, and ironically, like that's how I always was. But I don't know, like over the course of the last few months, like even with at work when I do my laps, like I have to catch myself and slow myself down. You know what I
So,
mean?
yeah, so running would be good for you.
Yeah, I think so.
That would be a good next step for you for sure.
Now I just gotta find shoes that aren't gonna kill me on a road.
Yeah. To me, shoes are, I don't know, because yeah, you can try a pair on in the store and they can be wonderful, but that's like a minute or two in the store. That's not working on your feet for 9 hours. How is it gonna, like, Hey Dudes are the most comfortable shoes to wear out shopping, but they are not comfortable to wear to work. At least the pair I have. They're not. And I only wore them because I completely forgot to change my shoes one day.
Oops.
Yeah, and it just happened to be a 9 hour day. And yeah, so shoes are something. I have found certain, those are so fucking cute.
They're soft soled, so they bend. Fucking awesome. They hug my foot so well.
Okay, are they new?
I've had them for over a week.
Okay, I need a link, ma'am.
Timu, you have the link.
Bitch, you're lying.
No?
Those came from, okay. All right, I'll have to look them up. You can still send me a link so I can find them quicker.
Okay.
All right, so
I want to say they were like $8. Yeah. So
mm,
good. And like you can
um,
get them with like a larger heel, a shorter heel. The one that I got is like almost a 2 inch. And I'm fine with that. Like honestly, if it were higher than that, it would be uncomfortable.
mhm.
Um, and like my original boots, they're lower. It's only like a half inch, I think. But that's like the perfect height for me. So I'm really
Okay.
happy with that. But
They're they're cute.
they are they're technically dance shoes.
Okay.
It's, that I saw them,
Yeah,
I was like, dancing, that's meant moving, walking, long hours, hard work. Yeah, I'm gonna give those a try.
yeah, yeah, okay, because I got that one. It was an outfit from Temu, and I
Hmm.
kept thinking, what shoes could I wear with those? I really don't have anything that would look cute with those, but those would. So yeah, I'm gonna need the link.
Not gonna lie, they're probably not a good shoe for you to work in.
Oh, I wouldn't wear them to work. In fact, I couldn't wear them to work. We can't wear anything with a heel unless you're management, and fuck that. Um, but yeah, I have, but like the brand I'm wearing to work now, they are comfortable for the first week. After that, and it must be the way I walk, um, the heel isn't as supported as when I
Mhm.
first get them and wear them
Is it one heel or both heels?
both. That's what I'm thinking. It
Hmm.
might be the way, might just be the way I walk, but that is the
Yeah.
only, what the fuck? That is the only shoe that does that. Yeah.
Because, like, I know when I was going to the chiropractor, he told me flat out my hips are like these. Actually, I think it's more like this. Um, so yeah, like for me, a wedge in one shoe, would be helpful in straightening my walk and my hips.
Hmm.
But it could be something similar for you.
Yeah, it might be. No, it is both heels. Um, yeah, it's both. And like I said, I think I do so much walking on, a shift
Hmm.
because of course I've got the Fitbit. I don't put the Fitbit on till I'm walking out the door. So there might be what, 30 steps on there when I get to work. And then it's, once I start working, I have maybe 1,000,
Okay.
from my car to the job.
Right.
Um, but by the end of the night, I've got like 17,000. So I'm doing a
Oh,
lot
well.
of steps while I'm working.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the way I walk. Um,
Well, the chiropractor will be able to tell you and then, give recommendations based on what he finds,
yeah,
as far as whether or not it's like hip or ankle or knee, you know.
yeah. No, and because the brand I got, apparently they're very popular among nurses, and no, they are not Crocs. They are not Crocs. Um, they're
I
the
really hate Crocs.
Brooks. They're
Oh, okay, yeah.
which like I said, the first week they're amazing, but after that my heel starts hurting. Like the shoes I've got, I've only had them not even maybe a month now, but yeah, they just start hurting the
Hmm.
heels. So anyway, are we ready to get into this week's?
I'm
Okay.
ready.
This is another one that I didn't hear about it. I've known about it for a long time. I saw a movie about it. And then I'm one of them people that when I'm watching a movie, I'm on IMDb, which we're on IMDb, and I don't know how because I didn't do it. I didn't
That's
do it.
awesome.
Um, but yeah. So I'm one of them people that I'm looking up like the trivia and things like that about the movie, and it was based on a true story. And I'm like, well, that's just fucked up. Um, the movie is called Star 80.
Never heard of it.
Well, and I never watched it when I was younger. Well, first of all, okay, what I am from that generation that parents really didn't give a fuck what you watched. Like, again, I'm 6, 7 years old watching The Shining, not really knowing what it means, but I'm watching it. Friday the 13th, like all the horror movies of the time, things like that. Um, Movies on Cinemax after 9 p.m. Parents just didn't give a fuck. Um, because we also knew you don't run to school and tell your teacher, hey, I saw boobies on TV last night. But when I was younger, when the movie came out and saw Star 80, to me, that screams sci fi. Nope. What it is Star 80 was the vanity plate on the husband's car. Okay. So if you don't already know what it is the murder of Dorothy Stratton. She was beautiful. She was gorgeous.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Okay. So Dorothy was born. Okay, I'm work my info is coming from Wikipedia, and I watched an episode of 2020. Um I didn't watch the whole episode. Um I probably had like 10 minutes left. I mean, I already know how the story ends. Um but that gave information, like of course you're not getting the full story from the movie.
Hmm.
um and you can read on things and trivia, and even because there's more information, and then I don't know, it's a whole thing. There are a couple fun facts that I already knew about this case based on like looking things up years ago, and
Hmm.
then newer information that I caught while watching the thing last night. Um, and then it was really weird because some of the people they're interviewing for the 2020 episode was because there's been two movies made about Dorothy Stratton and what happened. And one is called uh like Death of a Centerfold, the Dorothy Stratton story. And that was a made for TV movie. And that had, and I'm sorry, great actress as she may be, I do not see Jamie Lee Curtis in that role. So that one I've never seen. And the other one, the Star 80, that stars Mariel Hemingway as Dorothy and Eric Roberts as the husband. And they are both interviewed on the 2020 thing, which is kind of cool because they kind of had to, like, in researching their roles, she went to the Playboy Mansion. And I'm not going to go into Playboy history or argue with people about, oh, women this, women that, whatever. Um, but I obviously being she was a Playboy centerfold, Playmate of the Month, and then and she was a Playmate of the Year in 1980, which is where Star 80 comes in,
Mhm.
and that was the vanity plate on his car. Okay, so um, her birth name was Dorothy Rook. Nope, Dorothy Ruth Hoag Stratton. Hoog Stratton. She was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Um, I mean, obviously, we know the ending. She dies. She was 20 years old when she died.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was born on February 28th, 1960. She was born to Simon and Nellie. I'm gonna say Hoog Stratton because it's Hoog. So I'm going with Hoog Stratton, which does sound very Canadian. February 28th, 1960. Um, her parents had emigrated from the Netherlands to there. Um, she had a brother who was a year younger named John and a sister. Keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. A sister who is younger than her by 8 years. Okay,
Like
so
11, 12.
I think there's an 8 year difference between the two of them. So yeah, she was like 12 when when Dorothy dies.
Okay.
Um, but just keep that in mind, okay? She for 4 years had worked at a Dairy Queen. Um, very and like pictures of her as younger, like her sister is in this interview too, and she's talking the younger sister, and she's talking about how like people made fun of her because she had big lips and just but and you know how pictures of people in the 70s are like you could I mean it was their style, I guess. So I can't really, I mean, I was born in the 70s, blah, 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 but I was too young in the 70s to know like was that stylish, and I don't know now like was that stylish. I still think she was a very pretty girl. Um but apparently she got made fun of for being skinny, being too nice, being naive, being, and that's how a lot of the people in the interview describe her, include and Hugh Hefner is interviewed for this also. And he said, all of the typical she lit up a room, everybody loved her. She's like, he says that was all true of her. She was unique, she was special. There was something about her. Because she did look like the girl next door, she came across as like an
Sweet and innocent.
everyman's fantasy, but innocent and sexy at the same time. So they called her the girl woman or woman girl because she was very womanly, but was very, I'm not saying this like she was immature, but she had like that childlike innocent quality to her.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm making sense, but
Yeah,
just
it does. Because, like, so many people who go into not only that industry, but acting and whatnot,
right.
you kind of become corrupted with
Yes.
everything. And you lose that innocence either through your interactions with people in the industry or with drugs or with money.
Right.
Unfortunately, that removes that innocent aspect
Yes.
in life,
And
unfortunately.
if I forget later, her centerfold appeared in the August 1979 issue, and I already know she was Playmate of the Year in 1980. Um, So she's working at Dairy Queen. She's 18. And now I'm going to describe a little bit of Paul Snyder for you. And maybe grab a vomit bag because the man,
I was
we can
gonna
call him that,
say that sounds
was,
really familiar for like not good stuff.
yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. Um, he and yeah, now I've got Hulu. So if you have Hulu and you have time to watch something, you can go into Hulu and do a search for Dorothy Stratton and things will come up and then you hit episodes and the very first thing that comes up is the 2020 episode that I watched. Um, if this is something that interests you at all, go watch it. Like it's very good. And the people they interview, personal friends of theirs, people that worked for Playboy, um, a sister, um, another man that comes into play later in the story. They all talk about it and lovely things like that. Well, a little bit about Paul Snyder. I'm trying to find the thing where I clicked on. God damn it. Um, anyway, he at the time when he walks into Dairy Queen, and sees her and just uh, personally, I think he saw dollar signs. Um, and according, like if you, when I get in further, other people, he was definitely described as like an opportunist. He- he would try to make money using other people. Because he actually was a pimp when when he was a club promoter of a Vancouver area club promoter and pimp. He had like a whole stable of women, I guess. Um, yeah. So lovely, lovely, lovely people. Um, so he sees her and she is 18. He at the time is 26 years old. And they start dating. And okay, so uh he bought Dorothy extravagant gifts. He took her to her prom. Ew. Um, so he buys her this really pretty dress for her prom. And there's a scene in the movie where they're at the prom and like he's getting jealous of high school boys. And my guess is it totally happened. Um,
Probably, yeah.
so after prom, he says, let's go get pictures taken. And they take these pictures and he decides he wants to send them to Playboy. Well, she was 18 at the time. So here, fully legal, could have done it. Well, the age
Hmm.
of consent in where she's from, Canada, Vancouver, I don't know if it's just a area thing, but the age of consent is 19. So she had to convince her mother to sign off on these,
Oh.
which she did eventually. So at this time, Playboy is getting ready to celebrate their 25th anniversary. So they're on like the hunt for the perfect um Playmate to promote their 25th anniversary, I guess.
Hmm.
And it was between her and another girl, and I completely forgot to write the other girl's name down. It reminded me of Candy Apple, but I don't think that's it. I don't know, maybe. Um, and looks why they were both very pretty, according, and this was another playmate that she was interviewed for it. And actually, I remember my brother, she's in the ZZ Top videos from like the mid 80s with the car and the models walking around because
Mhm.
they were all playmates. One of the models or one
Mhm.
of yep, they were all that I remember. One of them, my middle brother was just head over heels for her, and she is in it. She's interviewed in this. Um, and she talks about like both women were very beautiful. What made Dorothy lose out was the fact that she was innocent and naive and completely like overwhelmed by all like this new culture basically and just was not experienced. So she had lost out to this other woman for the 25th year. Well, and then to kind of get experienced and also to work for her green card because now they're in LA and they're from Canada. She has to be working. So she gets a job at one of the Playboy clubs as a bunny. Um, and she did that and things progress and she becomes um a playmate in August of 1979. I remembered. Of course, it was what, like 5 minutes ago? Great. Um, so like she gets to the mansion and Hugh Hefner just loves her, like everything about her. But again, the innocence and that is kind of, I don't want to say turn him off, but kind of shied away from using her immediately. Um, but they hated Paul Snyder, who of course he comes with her because he's the one that gets her there. And people later explain like you owe him nothing. You've already had it. He just okay. So here's some side notes about Paul Snyder.
That's what he did.
Yep. He he would go to the Playboy Mansion in the floor length furs and the chains and the open shirts with the chest hair out and like I think he just looked shady. Like he just you would not trust him in a room with a flashlight. I mean, you just couldn't. You just so they're doing the Playboy things and in the 2020 episode they're talking about like Playboy did like an ABC special and it was like a roller disco special and she was featured pretty heavily in it. And just things like he was there and nobody liked him. Like no, and there's even a friend, and I get into that a little bit later. But one of his friends was Max Baird Jr. Do you know who that is? Okay. Jethro from Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's he's also interviewed in this thing. Like the people they interview, like that's like a fucking star-studded lineup because you got Eric Roberts, Marion Hemingway, Jethro. Um, remember the show Chip? Well, maybe Chips,
Vaguely.
John and Ponch, Motorcycle Cops.
Okay.
Okay, well, his Larry, fuck, I can't remember his name. Larry, it's right there. It was in the well, anyway, he is he directed it was either a movie about Dorothy or one of the documentaries or something. So he's
Okay.
interviewed. So it's like an all-star, like it's a really good episode of 2020. So I highly recommend it. Um, so other fun facts about Paul, besides the fact that he was a club promoter and a pimp, an opportunist. He is the one that came up with the idea for Chippendales. Yes, Chippendales was his idea. He worked with, it never names who his partners were, so I don't know if it's two, three, four, several, but they take the idea and kick him out, take his idea, make it work, and it's made them millions.
That's
So,
crazy.
you know what? I just call that karma. Because,
And yeah, but at the same time, like that's shady. They cut him out. Like they could have,
you know, if anyone on the planet deserved it, it's him. He sold women for profit.
yeah.
He, like, I mean, I'm not one of them people that are on the, oh, Playboy is horrible. Hugh Hefner was a piece of shit. I'm not one of those people. Um, I think, nope, I'm not even gonna get into that because it doesn't matter. Um,
To be fair, you have to be a certain type of individual to enter into that society in the first place.
right. And but I mean I definitely don't want to get controversial or anything because everyone's got their own opinions and that's great. My personal opinion is they people chose
Yes.
to go and do this stuff and it was their choice. Were they treated the best there? Probably not. Um, Probably not. So I'm not gonna say like that was great, but the women were there by their own choice. So
Right. They knew what they were
that
getting into.
yeah, that's kind of all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so he was the one that came up with the idea for Chippendales because even if you notice, and this had to do a lot, like it kind of, they wore the bows and the cuffs, kind of like
hmm
the Playboy bunnies. So, I mean, you can kind of see some similarities. And I
Yeah.
do remember, and I believe it was 1988, 89, 89. I think it was. I had a Chippendales calendar that I bought at the mall.
I was 9 years old at the time.
Okay, so
So how old were you?
15.
Okay.
So in 88, you would have been five. 89, you would have been six.
Oh, yeah. Why was I thinking nine?
Because
Why
I'm
was I thinking
we're 10 years
88?
apart. We're 10 years apart. So
Math ain't
any
math.
anywho, it was maybe it was 88. I don't know, 88 or 89. I had a Chippendales calendar. Um, and he was also always trying to come up with get rich schemes. So he made like he designed weight benches, comes into play later. Um, so I guess I kind of passed this and now I'm going backwards. But when they got to LA, Paul was really the only person that she personally knew. So that was the only person she had to really lean on, I guess, and it was kind of a control thing. Um, and so she gets a role in a movie and they kind of play a clip of it. And I mean, I don't know where it was produced, but the name of it was called Galaxina, and that was her character name in the movie, and she was like a sexy, like perfect robot that men all loved her, but she was a robot they couldn't have sex with. And they show her and another character like kissing, and he like, and there's sparks all around him. It's fucking cheesy as shit.
But sounds
Um,
funny at the same time.
yeah, I would kind of like to look it up and find it just to watch it. But yeah, so and she was in episodes of Fantasy Island and Buck Rogers. She was in the movie Skate Town, USA. Um, a movie called Autumn Born. Okay. So people are starting to try to convince her. Okay, and by this time they get married. Her and Paul get married somewhere in there. They got married in 1979, so it was before she became Playmate of the Year.
Okay.
Um, so and she's getting all these acting parts, and there is an interview after she becomes a Playmate that says, um, like the article about you, meaning about her becoming the Playmate, does not mention you're married, but you are. And she says, yes. And he says, what does your husband think of all that? And this is a direct quote because they play the interview. So the direct quote, he's very encouraging. He's very proud of me. It's great for his ego. And that to me, that's a very sad statement.
That is a sad statement.
It's a very sad statement. Okay, um so during all of this, Paul is caught in the famous grotto at the Playboy Mansion trying to have sex with other women. Dorothy is not there at the time. So security says, go, and you can only come back when Dorothy is here. So it was after this when he basically convinces Dorothy, like, hey, we should get married, blah, blah, blah. Um, so some of the gifts that she won, and I didn't look up like what this shit would be worth today. If you want to do that, you can. So some of the gifts that she won, besides just the title of Playmate of the Year, I didn't write it down, but there was a diamond necklace, a diamond ring, and she does give like the dollar amounts that they're worth, but they're like in the thousands, like tens of thousands. Um, a
It'd be like
Russian
millions today.
a Russian stole, a $26,000 Jaguar, a $25,000 check, a brass bathtub worth 13, like a handmade brass bathtub worth $13,000. So again, I don't know what any of that is worth in today's money because it's been 44 years. I don't know what that's worth, but I'm sure it's a lot. Um, so after she gets all these gifts, Paul calls Max, aka Jethro, over to show him all these things and says, how much do you think I could get for it? And he sells all of her stuff that she won and takes the check to try to buy himself, not her, a new vehicle. Yeah. That's so when I say that they kicked him out of Chippendales, good for them. Good for them. They deserve an award. Do you get it now?
Yeah.
Um, so like at this point, she's doing movies and she's going away and she's not around a lot. So Paul tries to find other women to submit their stats into Playboy so they can elevate him to that status. He wanted to be the next Hugh Hefner, is what it was. He wanted to be him. Um, so they're starting to live separate lives basically, but he realizes he doesn't like her pulling away. Um, so she's doing like a lot of press for being Playmate of the Year. She's doing TV shows and she's getting movie roles, and he would call her out of interviews and movie roles and argue with her and get her upset. And not movie roles, but like while she was at studios, calling her out and getting her upset. And yeah. So now we are going to um okay, so a lot of people tried to warn Dorothy about Paul, but of course she's naive and feels she owes him something because, you know, He made her look like that. It wasn't genetics or God or her parents.
The makeup.
Um, right. Um, did he help get her there? Yeah, but she got to where she was based on her looks, her personality. Okay. So everyone, including Hugh Hefner, tries to warn her, like, he's a piece of shit. Get away from him because he's no good. He's dead weight to you. He's using you. Um, he's controlling. Okay, so now we're going to talk about another man. And hang on, I gotta look up the pronunciation. Um, Peter Bogdanovich. You know who he is?
No.
Okay, he is, I believe, a director. Give me a second. Yes, he was a director. He directed The Last Picture Show with Sybil Shepherd. And side note of that, he left his wife to get into a relationship with Sybil Shepherd. He also, there was another one in between there, and I forgot to write that one down. Um, I know it had Barbara Streisand in it. Um, and Paper Moon, which won Tatum O'Neal an Oscar. So it was an Oscar winning picture. Okay. So after Paper Moon, he's kind of doesn't really get much of anything. He's starting like down on his luck. Him and Sybil Shepherd are breaking up. So he starts hanging out at the mansion. And guess who he meets? He meets Dorothy. And he's instantly just, oh, and again, very beautiful girl. Um, so he is going to do another movie. It's called They All Laughed. Um, and hang on, I'm gonna look that up real quick to tell you who stars in it. Um, Ben Gazzara, Audrey Hepburn, John Ritter, Colleen Camp, who was also interviewed in this thing, and then there's a few other people. Okay, so I've never watched the movie, but John Ritter's character, they kind of make him look like this Peter Bogdanovich, with the glasses and kind of the nerdy look. And Dorothy plays kind of his love interest in this movie. And apparently, one of the favorite lines that Peter wrote for this role was John Ritter asked her character to marry him, and she said, "I okay, as soon as my divorce is final." And it was, and a lot of people called it like an autobiographical story within this movie.
Mhm.
They fall in love. They begin an affair that they're trying to keep secret because she's still married to Mr. Crazy Pants. Doesn't work so well. Paul kind of suspects something's going on, so he uses most likely her money and hires a private investigator who, and I don't know the private investigator's name. Um, but yeah, so he hires this private, okay, so after he hires this private detective, he gets this idea that apparently him and Dorothy had previously talked about making a poster, kind of like the famous Farrah Fawcett poster of the 70s of Dorothy Stratton, to kind of generate him some revenue. So when she ultimately dips, he's got something to fall back on, but still off of her coattails, basically. Someone takes her the picture that they want to use for the photo. He She comes out and says, "Nope, you do not have my permission to use this." Well, now Paul is pissed because now he's got to come up with some other get rich quick scheme. Okay, so even though at this point she knows she's done with Paul because she is now in love and living with Peter. And she has now told Paul, I'm in love with Peter. It's over. Done. So even though lawyers could have handled it, and I'm sure Playboy probably told her, we got you, girl. Don't do this yourself. So by this time, she's doing good. She appears on Johnny Carson. Um, again, movie roles, cash roles. Um, sorry, just so the 5 days leading up to the murder, and this I do have notes of this, and this is kind of where I stopped watching because I was like, you know what, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. 5 days prior to the murder, people who saw him saw only glimpses of odd behavior, but afterwards, putting it all together, they were like, okay, that makes sense now. Um, he suddenly got preoccupied with guns, and a friend of his had loaned him a gun, and he took this gun and sat outside of Peter's home with the gun. But after 2 hours, saw no movement. So he was like, I'm just gonna go home and cry myself to sleep. Um, well, then the friend decides, maybe it's a good idea I take my gun back.
Probably.
Yeah, so then Paul starts searching the classifieds. And for you young people that don't know, we used to have newspapers made of actual paper with ads, not Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, actual papers. And, and you couldn't message these people. You actually had to call them, or they would give you their address and go see it, or because there was no email, or you had to correspond through mail. Look. Okay. So anyway, um, so she's filming this movie. In fact, it finishes because it comes out after her death. Um, and I would kind of like to, um, I kind of like to watch it. So, okay. So spring of 80, Paul is insisting on accompanying Dorothy to Playboy and photo shoots for the movie, and like the press tour for movies and things like that people do. And at this point, Hugh Hefner says no more Paul Snider, because he was actually kind of making it so Dorothy and Peter could go to the mansion and be an open couple, because they kind of had to keep it private everywhere else. So Peter later writes a book that is, he makes some awful claims about Hugh Hefner. Could be true, could not be true. But before the murder, he makes it so they can be a couple while they're there. Um, so she goes back to California for the publicity tour, for Playmate of the Year movie, things like that. Um, then she goes and does a 2-week promotional tour in Canada. And after the 2-week tour, she's really got nothing scheduled. So she goes and surprises Peter. And, by this time she was like, it's just over. Um, so he gets crazier and crazier as time goes on. So, all right. So now we're going to jump to, um, August of 1980. Um, On August 8th, Dorothy and Paul see each other for the first time in nearly 3 months. Because um they are at the home that they shared before she met Peter. And they have housemates, and the woman's name is Patty Lauerman. And side note, he tried to get her to take photos for Playboy. Paul did, because, Um, so when she sees him, that's when, she lets him down, like, I'm in love with Peter. This is over. It's done. Move on. Let me move on. So then the day after this meeting is when he hires the private detective. And he ends up during this time finding in the classified ads, a 12 gauge shotgun. The gun he had before was a 38 revolver. Sorry, I forgot to say that sooner. So he buys this used 12 gauge, and it was a pump action shotgun. Um, he has conversation with friends and says that he bought the gun because, and they say cryptically declaring that he was going to take up hunting. And then casually goes into playmates that have unexpectedly died. Apparently the year before there was she was an actress and a former playmate of the year, who had been killed in a car accident. And he made several like morbid remarks. Um, okay, sorry. He made comments about how editors would pull nude photos of a dead playmate from the next issue if there was time. So now we get to Thursday, August 14th. Stratton is back in Los Angeles and plans on meeting Paul to kind of start paying him to make him go away, basically, to get divorced so they can make this clean break and be done and move on. That's her thoughts, because this is where her naivety comes in. Um, so she spends the morning conferring with her business manager, and one of the topics was like a property settlement with Paul. Um, and they figure she had her down payment money, because one of the things the police found was $1,100 in cash, that they figured that was like her down payment, because that wasn't going to be enough to make his ass go away.
Right.
Um, ugh, sorry. Towards the end of the morning, Stratton's business manager made a fateful observation that his young client could avoid spending any more time with Snyder by him handing off the remaining separation and divorce negotiations, and many other people had told her those same things.
Hmm.
Stratton replies that the process would go easier if she dealt with Snyder personally, explaining that he was being nice about everything, and finally adding, I'd like to remain his friend. Um, Snyder's two roommates, which one is that Patty Lowerman, and the other one was a doctor, and I cannot find his name. And he is also, in fact, both of them are also interviewed in the 2020 um thing. I'm trying to find his name. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to just call him doctor, because okay, so she goes to their formerly shared home that he has two roommates. Um, they are gone for the day. And, they come home, they see Dorothy's car, the bedroom door is closed. They figure, they're maybe reconciling and we're just going to give them their privacy. Well, they are alerted by Paul's private investigator that he has not been able to reach him all day long. Could you check on him, please? Well, they go into Paul's bedroom and make the horrific discovery of two dead bodies. One is, oh crap, I didn't realize what time it was. I have been talking a lot. I'm sorry. Um, One is obviously Dorothy. She is found nude. And remember I talked about those weight benches that he made?
Mhm.
Well, they were kind of like weight benches slash torture devices. Like it was almost like a weight bench meets an OB chair, kind of. And she was face down on that with and strapped to it and legs apart. So you can kind of take from that assessment that now the movie shows it one way, but who knows? I mean, I guess maybe they're going by forensics, but it shows in the movie basically some necrophilia. And if you don't know what that is having intercourse with a corpse. But he had shot her in the head. And then my guess is he finishes and shoots himself. So he does the world a favor there.
Yeah, no kidding.
She at that point is, uh, I mean, obviously dead. She is cremated and her remains are interred at the Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles. Um, upon hearing the news, when Hugh Hefner told Peter Bogdanovich that she had been murdered, he collapsed and had to be sedated. And one of the things, and this is where he talks about he had never loved anyone the way he had loved Dorothy before or since. Now, 8 years after Dorothy's murder, um, Peter marries Dorothy's little sister. Mhm. She was 20 at the time, which Dorothy was 20. I don't remember how old he was when he met Dorothy. Um, so I don't
I
know.
don't
I'm
think you
sorry.
said.
Um, I know he was also older. So yes, that is basically oh, there was on her grave marker a passage chosen by Bogdanovich from chapter 34 of A Farewell to Arms, which is an Ernest Hemingway novel. Well, 3 years after the murder, Mariel Hemingway, Ernest's granddaughter, plays Dorothy in Star
Oh,
80. Yeah. So, let me see. So she does this movie. There is the book he wrote is called The Killing of the Unicorn, Dorothy Stratton, 1960 to 1980. I'm not gonna go into all the allegations he makes towards Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner, of course, eventually defends them. Um, I will say that one of the allegations he made that the wording, according to Playboy's lawyers, that had to be changed, he uses the words raped. Um, but he had to change the word to seduced Dorothy. Um, and Hugh Hefner later states that like he was sexually attracted to her, and they kind of like hugged in the jacuzzi, but that's in quotation marks, so take that for what you will. But his interest ended after she got married. Don't know how true any of that is. I mean, I guess nobody does because all players except for Peter Bogdanovich are dead. He is still alive, I believe. Um, but that is the sad, horrific story of Dorothy Stratton.
Well, thank you. It was a great one.
Thanks. It's what when I told Roy I was covering this, he was like, "I thought you would have did that a long time ago." Yeah. It's a good one. Star 80 is a very good movie. There is a scene, I will tell you, in that movie where Paul Snyder is like talking to himself in the mirror and smiling and practicing facial features. And Eric Roberts, who played Paul Snyder in the movie, said that was such an uncomfortable scene to film. It felt awkward, but something very much like what Paul Snyder would do.
Makes me wonder if he was a sociopath.
I'm pretty sure. Definitely a narcissist.
Hmm.
Um, hang on, because I did write down like some the way he people described him. I didn't even look at many of my notes.
No, he did
Um,
great.
thanks. Um, oh, I will say I forgot to say this part because I didn't look at my notes. Um, a friend of Paul, which Jethro, said, ask Paul, like, do you care about Dorothy? He was like, yes, yes, I do. He said, then take her back home. She does not, because of how naive and innocent she was, she does not
Hmm.
belong here. This town is going to eat her up. And I really think the town was great to her. It was her husband.
Yeah.
Um,
Everyone else cared more for her than he did.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then, the fact that everybody was trying to um tell her, get away from him.
Right.
Uh, yeah, he was described as a pimp who didn't keep a low profile by wearing long furs, chains, open, exposed chest hair. He was an opportunist. He had extravagant taste, which is what led him to be a pimp. And one of the ladies described him as a wolf stalking his prey. Yeah. And he liked to make money at the expense of other people. So yeah, that's so do I feel bad about his partners and the Chippendales thing? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about that anymore.
Mm-mm. Nope. I figured you would change your mind. I really did because he really was a piece of shit.
Yup. He was
Yeah.
another one of those garbage human beings
Hmm.
and fortunately took himself out.
Okay, real quick, I am going to find a picture of Paul Snyder for you because you've seen how beautiful, um, and that to me isn't even one of her better pictures. Okay, this right here is the picture from her prom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, scummy.
Yeah.
Very like he just looked like the type that
You wouldn't buy a Rolex from?
I wouldn't buy a nickel from him. Like, I don't know. He just, I don't know. Yeah, and they do show a scene of I I don't know. It was some Playmate or Playboy special or something where someone says like Hugh Hefner never really liked having to speak to him, um, and never felt good about it, but in this particular scene or clip of the two of them talking, and even as an outsider who doesn't know what's going on, you can clearly see he is very uncomfortable talking to him. That Hugh Hefner does not like talking to him at all.
Nobody liked him.
Yeah. And there's even a scene where Dorothy is sitting at a table with another playmate and on one side and Paul on the other, and he like reaches over to grab her hand and she like gives the hand a quick squeeze and pulls away. So yeah, very yeah. So yeah, on that note, I got to go. I'm heading into work now.
Drive safe.
So again, sorry for the lateness of this. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. And we will see you next time.
I hope you do too.
Bye.
Bye.